Mr.
Hi,
Huffines.
how you doing?
Nice to see you.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Nice to see you again. I'm so glad you came early.
Well, I'm Don Huffines. I'm a God-fearing patriot. I'm a lifelong conservative activist. I was fifth-generation Texan. I am a fifth-generation Texan. I was born in Dallas, grew up in the Metroplex. I've been a fighter for our Republican Party all my life. When I was 17, I went and volunteered for the Reagan campaign, and I went to my first county convention when I was 18, about 2 weeks. My parents were not political, typical Texas Democrats, and I've always supported a lot of candidates over the years with my money, my time, and been disappointed. I've also been a delegate to 3 national conventions on the political space, and on the personal space, I've been married to Mary Catherine, my beautiful, perfect wife, for 34 years. She had doctor's appointments today, so she didn't come, but she'll be here in the morning. I have 5 children, 4 boys and a girl. All 4 boys are Eagle Scouts. And April the 18th of 21 of this year, this lady, 28-year-old, went to church in Dallas, Texas, and they were still scared of the virus. The church was a big church. They weren't meeting in the sanctuary, they were meeting in the gymnasium. And the chairs like these were two at a time and 8 feet apart or more. She and her husband sat in the far back right-hand corner of the gymnasium, and she had in her arms her 12-month-old daughter. Well, the preacher, he walks by and says, "You need to put a mask on." She says, "I'm not going to do that." She said, "You see, I'm pregnant, number 2, and I'm feeling morning sickness." So the service goes on, and she's kneeling out towards the end and praying if she went up and got communion. And she feels this heavy hand on her neck and on her back. And she turns around, she's got a baby in her arms. She turns around and looks up, and there's 3 Dallas policemen standing above her in the middle of the service. And they say they're going to take her to jail for trespassing because she didn't have a mask on. Well, her husband, he's a calm guy, and he pulls out his video, little cell phone, and he starts videoing. He talks him and taking it outside. And they did. They wrote her up out there for trespassing, took a picture of the license plate of their car, and said that they could never set foot on be back on that property for any reason. They'd be arrested for trespassing. Well, that video went viral, and 1 million Americans saw that video. Because nobody can believe it. How do you fathom being arrested in a church and not having a mask on? And the most frightening thing about the whole story is that not one member of that congregation said a word. They were just praying it wasn't them. Not one member. Hundreds of people in there didn't say a thing. Well, that girl was my daughter. That was my daughter, Deirdre. But I bring that story up because it's real important to realize where we are in Texas today. I've got many others. But I just think it's indicative to what's happened to us. We've lost our liberty, and we've lost that, and I blame that on the governor. He's an enabler. He's in the ones that enabled the leftists, have taken over our churches, our seminaries, they've taken over our media, of course, and our schools, and he's empowered them with the way he's conducted himself. We've lost more liberty in the last 18 months than I ever thought was possible. And I never thought I'd see it. And it was done to us by a Republican governor. Most forever. I never would have done any of that. I put a tweet out warning everybody what was going to happen, what he was going to do if he listened to that line, Fauci, and he did. I put an op-ed in most major papers of Texas begging him to open back up. I think it was published about the 3rd week of April, 2nd week of April. And then that whole process, he closed our churches. He closed our churches on the holiest season of the year, Easter. Hardly anybody could go to church over Easter. You couldn't bury the dead properly. You couldn't get baptized. You couldn't bury the dead. You couldn't get married. I mean, you couldn't visit the sick. Our relatives were dying alone, with no one by their side. And in 2,000 years of Christianity, we've never closed our churches. That's not the lens I look through. But he did. And he shredded our Constitution. Well, I'll tell you, I'm a business guy. I decided to run for the Texas Senate in 2013 because I was tired of yelling at the TV and screaming at it. And so I took out the most liberal Republican in Austin who was sitting in Senate District 16 in the primary. No runoff, just he and I in 135 days on the campaign. So I was in the Senate, Texas Senate, from 14 to 18. I got beaten 18 when the Democrats finished taking over Dallas County. But when I was down there, there was a few things I got done I'll tell you guys about that I was proud of. I was always ranked one of the top 1, 2, or 3 most conservative state senators in Austin by those different scorecards you can get ranked on. According to Secretary of the Senate, I'm the only elected office holder in the history of the state of Texas that never took any money from the government, no pay, pension, health care, travel vouchers, reimbursements, nothing. I didn't even use their office furniture. It was really ugly anyway. Are going away?
No, they tell us they are.
Yeah.
But the appraisal goes up.
Is the border secure?
Oh, what border?
Or do you have confidence in the election?
No.
And I could go all the way down the list. It's way down. I mean, I could go way down the list. And fighting for our Republican Party priorities, put together by tens of thousands of Republicans. I mean, we go from education freedom or school choice to, I call education freedom, term limits, stopping the sexual genital mutilation of our children, taxpayer-funded lobbying. I mean, there's so many issues. But I'm focused on those 3. Now, I've got a comprehensive, good plans to secure the border. And the fundamental part of my plan is I'm never asking permission from the federal government to secure the Texas border. It's not necessary. Thank you. I've got a comprehensive plan to phase out property taxes entirely over 8 years, keep all the local governments fully funded. It's going to be a constitutional amendment, so you'll get to vote on that. We're never going to have an income tax. I've got a great plan to give you confidence in your election. I'm creating a new law enforcement division that's going to enforce our election laws. Not so much a battle because they were never with me. Well, a lot of your Republicans aren't with us in our party platform. Have you ever met a Republican that didn't say they were conservative? No. They all say they're conservative. 90% of them are liars. They campaign one way, and they go down to that swamp in Austin, and they're going to govern a different way. And I was cussed at and screamed at on the floor of that Texas Senate by Republicans. No one have ever been